I just give some information about how GeoDCAT-AP has been somehow used, or which is the relation between GeoDCAT-AP and some of the work done at W3C. So we can go directly to the next slide. So as I mentioned before, after the development of GeoDCAT-AP, this specification has been shared with standard bodies. One of them is W3C. In relation to some specific topics or areas that has been addressed by GeoDCAT-AP, one of the things that was clear from the very beginning of the work on GeoDCAT-AP is that the semantic web technologies, which are used for GeoDCAT-AP because it's based on RDF, had some gaps in terms of the ability of specifying some type of information, like geometries, reference systems, some data quality aspects. So this was what has been one of the reasons why there was this contribution of GeoDCAT-AP to W3C to see if there was the possibility of trying to address this in the framework of activities of the standard body. So specifically, when GeoDCAT-AP was developed, there was a group jointly chartered by W3C and OGC called Spatial Data on the Web that was actually trying to bridge, the geospatial domain with the web domain. And this was one of the groups that where GeoDCAT-AP has been contributed. And other two ones are listed here. This data on the web best practices was overlapping in terms of time frame with Spatial Data on the Web. And specifically, I will show you the relationship with GeoDCAT-AP is related to one of the specific deliverables of this group, which is the data quality vocabulary. And finally, there is a more recent working group, which is called Dataset Exchange, that is still running, basically. And one of the deliverables of this group was a revision of the data catalog vocabulary, so basically the standard on which DCAT-AP and GeoDCAT-AP are based on. So we can move to the next slide. For the spatial data on the web working group, basically there was a reuse of GeoDCAT-AP in one of their deliverables, which are the spatial data on the web best practices. You can see the list here. So this group defined 14 best practices, and in the ones that are highlighted, so best practice 5, 8, 13, and 14. There is a reference to GeoDCAT-AP as example now to specify, for instance, geometries and coordinate reference systems, but also, as you see here, the position of accuracy for spatial data. So more related to the specific aspect that concern, let's say, geospatial information. So what I'm saying here is that basically this group reviewed the GeoDCAT-AP and recognized that what has been done can be actually be pointed at as a best practice for doing some work that is specifically related to these aspects. Next slide. So another thing that was somehow reused in other specification, and specifically in data quality vocabulary, is how to specify conformance with the standard of specification. Probably you cannot see very clearly, but hopefully with the slides when they will be available online you can see it. But anyway, in the data catalog vocabulary, one of the aspects is about how to express conformance with a specific standard, and standard means basically any specification can be also a reference system in this case, so it's used very broadly. And here there is an example of a typical thing that you can find in GeoDCAT-AP, saying that this catalog record, this metadata record conforms to GeoDCAT-AP. But there was also another point. It was one of the issues that we had when developing GeoDCAT-AP was that it was not easy to find a way by using existing RDF vocabularies to specify information like spatial or temporal resolution. So, for instance, this was one of the open issues left by GeoDCAT-AP, and actually the group that developed the data quality vocabulary provided a possible solution for addressing this gap, and you can see it here. So, just to say that there was some interest in the work done, and there was some work done in the framework. W3C was trying to address some specific gaps. The last slide, then. Okay, so coming now to the new version of the data catalog vocabulary. This is going to be released shortly, probably before summer or just after summer. And one of the things to be mentioned is that now this vocabulary includes a number of, let's say, resource types that were not instead supported in the previous version. So the scope of the vocabulary has been broadened up, and for instance now they include resources like services and APIs, which is something that is typical for geospatial metadata. And a number of revisions and extensions that has been done in this new version of DCAT are actually addressing some of the gaps identified in the development of GeoDCAT-AP. So, for instance, still a relationship between distributions and services. Is the distribution, the data themselves are not just available as files, let's say, but through a service API. And then there are solutions for specifying temporal spatial resolution, spatial coverage with geometries, and actually now this vocabulary includes specific properties for bounding boxes and centroids. And this was actually one of the issues that we had when developing GeoDCAT-AP, because there was not such a thing available at that time in the, let's say, widely used RDF vocabularies. And then there is also the possibility of specifying reference systems. They provide a way to do that. What is included in the new version of the DCAT is basically compliant with what has been done in GeoDCAT-AP. There are, of course, new properties and classes, but they are not, they say, breaking what has been done in GeoDCAT-AP. They say that conceptually the approach is similar. So in case of any future revision and of the GeoDCAT-AP with respect to the new version of DCAT, this can be easily accommodated, of course, taking into account the backward compatibility. Okay, I finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. And sorry for the background noise. And please, I see that there are some people who we mute them and then they disconnect and reconnect and then they produce background noise again. So please stay muted when you're not speaking. We have now still a couple of minutes left for one question to Andrea. So now you are allowed to unmute yourself and ask a question or type a question in the chat box if you like. We have one comment in the chat that OGC is starting to work on CSW4, which will be based on Open API. Andrea, are you aware of that? I suppose yes.
Yeah, no, yes, I'm aware of that. I think that probably Danny in the next presentation may also provide more informed comments on this.